This is Jenny Kunkel, and in this video we're going to take a look at a few of the miscellaneous functions that were introduced in Chapter 9. This includes the if, so this is going to essentially check to see if a value is one of the two values provided, and based on the value of the expression, it's going to return one or the other of the values. Now in Oracle, we do not have this type of an if expression. We can achieve the same type of results using either a case or a decode statement. With our choose statement that is available in SQL Server, this can also be accomplished with a case or a decode. So the choose is basically going to be an index into a list, and it's going to return the item that is at that index location in the list. We can use, I think, probably the decode, since we'll probably use a case for the first one to show how that works. The coalesce is going to essentially provide the first non-null expression that's going to be returned. It's essentially going to have a list of items, and the very first one that ends up not being null is going to be the one that gets returned. And then finally, we have our ISNULL check that is for SQL Server. That's going to check to see if a field or an expression is null. If it is, it's going to have some type of default value that's set up that will be returned in that instance. For Oracle, we use the NVL. Essentially is going to work that same way. If we have a field or an expression that is null, then we can return some type of a default. And typically what we see for these ISNULL or NVL type expressions, if we're trying to do math on a particular field that could be nullable, we usually would want to default that field value to something like 0, if it makes sense, if we're trying to do some type of a calculation, so it doesn't skew our results. So let's go ahead and let's take a look, first starting with SQL Server. Now in SQL Server, this is going to be essentially if I have an expression, and this time we're just going to hard code it to be 10 greater than 5. We could use table-based fields, but we're just going to keep it simple here. If it's greater than 5, then we're going to return greater. Otherwise, we're going to return smaller. If we execute the statement, it should return greater to us, as we see. The next statement that we want to do is our choose statement, and this is essentially where we're going to provide a list and an index in that list. So if I start with choose and say that my index is 2 in that list, and then I have my list of items, in this case apple, maybe banana, and orange, when I execute the statement based on the list, apple would be at 1, banana 2, I should get banana back. And I do. If we look at the next one, the coalesce, this is essentially going to be a list of values. So if I go ahead and do a select coalesce and provide a value list, so null, null, and then first non-null. The first non-null value is going to be this last one. If I execute this, we can see that that's what's being returned. If I change this and put an X here, that's now going to be the first non-null in that list, and I would have X return. And then finally, if we want to take a look at something where maybe we're providing a little bit more clarity here with our ISNULL, in the production.product table, we have the weight unit of measure code, and there are items in that that are null, and this is a nullable field. So in our case, if we have something that is null, we're going to return no weight provided. So we can go ahead and do a select product ID, the name, and then we're going to use that ISNULL with our weight unit measure code. We're going to provide no weight measure. And then we're going to have this be in the unit weight unit measure code field. And we're going to select this from our production.product table. If I execute this, we can see no, obviously it's 2 digits. Otherwise, it would show the whole entire thing. So we have lots of no's and then the LB. So my fault that I didn't pay attention to how long that field was. Maybe we should put something like XX to be a little bit more meaningful then. So we can see that there. Then if we go to Oracle, let's flip over there, and I can start out, instead of doing the if, I can go ahead and do a case statement, and this is going to be where I provide some type of condition, and my condition is going to be when 10 is greater than 5, and then I'm going to return greater, else smaller. End this expression, maybe give it an alias of expression, and execute this against dual. I should be seeing greater returned in the expression aliased field. That's what I'm seeing. The next thing we did was use that choose list. In this case, I'm going to use a decode statement. And the decode statement is essentially going to be where I provide my index or my field that I'm trying to look at. In this case, if I have an index value of 2, I'm going to start my comparisons against 1. If it's equal to 1, then I'm going to return apple. If it's equal to 2, then I'm going to return banana. If it's equal to 3, then I'm going to return orange. Otherwise, if it's not equal to any of them, I could provide some default. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and return null. And I'm going to execute this against dual. I should be getting banana back, similar to what we had before. And I probably want to do this where I'm giving it some alias name for that, because that decode statement is lovely there. And we're getting back our banana. The next thing we want to do is we want to do the coalesce. Again, we're going to essentially use the same example. It works essentially the same way. We're going to have nulls in our list, and then the first non-null should return the first non-null from our list. If I execute this, we are getting that. If we change this first one again to an X, when we rerun this, we should be getting X back. Our last example, we are going to go ahead and look at the employees table. For our employees table, the commission percent is a nullable field, and there are quite a few people that have null as their commission percent. So if I would go ahead and do a select asterisk from employees, we can quickly see that. Null, 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 null down the line. If I decide that I want to go ahead and return the employee ID, first name and last name, and the commission percent, but we want to show 0 because we want to do something with it potentially, like add up all the percentage and then do some type of average or something like that, we could do that. So in this case, let's go ahead and do the employee ID, the first name, the last name, and then we want our commission percent. So we're using the MBL, and this is going to be commission percent. We're going to give it a default value of 0, and then re-alias the field as the field name itself. Now when we execute this, we should see that we are getting zeros out for those that were null before. So that's kind of how that NVL, or in the case of SQL Server, the ISNULL functions.